Hi everyone, Sarah Westaway here, Master Practitioner with Healing Solutions. So welcome to the live that I'm doing today, and I've been doing a few lives over the last few weeks, and I just wanted to really get into what Healing Solutions is and what we're all about. So if you've missed any, go back and have a look. I've been going through what it is that we do and how we can help people. So today what I want to go through is some interesting things that we can test for people. So quite often people come to us with chronic and acute illness, but they don't always have to. Some of our clients just want something really simple tested, and we can do that for them. So normally when we do a Healing Solutions session for somebody, we're looking at all different types of symptoms and causes of disease, or dis-ease we call it. But sometimes our clients just want something simple tested. So, excuse me. So when we're testing for people, there are some things that come up for people, and we call them toxins. So toxins are what we classify as ingestants, so anything that we eat. We call them injectants, anything that pierces the skin. We call them contactants, so anything that touches the skin, and inhalants, so anything that you smell. So when we're testing those, sometimes what we think is an ingestant, what I'm saying is when we're testing these, some weird things can come up. So last week I was talking about how my son was laying on the lounge and it was actually coming up as an ingestant. So normally you wouldn't find a lounge as an ingestant, of course, but I think what he was doing was licking the couch. So it was going in, and whatever was on top of the fabric was testing as an ingestant. So ingestants are things that we generally eat and drink. So it could be our supplements, so anything that we consume. Some things that we test for when they come up as an ingestant for a client is things like water, supplements, all of their foods, any kind of beverages that they might be eating, tea, coffee, and any alcohol, anything, soft drinks, that sort of thing. Any kind of medications. But then sometimes there are really random, we never think it's random, we always test whatever, and we're never quite surprised, but sometimes things like pollen and mold or dust can come up as an ingestant too. So you're actually taking that in and consuming that. So we test all different ways with ingestants, and we like to test when an ingestant comes up for a client, to test actually what it is. So sometimes it's just a one-off and it's an ingestant that they've had, just because they've gone out for dinner, but sometimes it's an ingestant that they're constantly having. And, it might be something that they're eating each week or each day, and we need to find out what that is to get rid of that for that person. So sometimes we find that ingestants aren't what we would classify as ingestants. So the great thing about Healing Solutions is we can actually find those really random things that are coming up. And, if we've tested the water, we've tested supplements, we've tested foods, and it's still testing as a ingestant, then, we might be testing mouthwash or toothpaste or any products that we use on our teeth. And then if that's still not coming up, then we can go further into the field and check. And then we look for things like pollen and dust. But what we do is we classify them into man-made and biological. So it makes it easier for us. So you might hear a practitioner say, this ingestant is man-made or this is biological. So it kind of helps us hone in and figure out what that is. When it comes to an inhalant, you might think of smells. So you might think of perfume or deodorant. So that can come up really often, and sometimes laundry detergent comes up as an inhalant as well. But there's some really weird things that come up as an inhalant. Not that they're weird to us, but sometimes it could be pollen and mold as well as an inhalant. Essential oils can come up as inhalants. A lot of people think that essential oils are natural, but they can come up for people as a toxin. I know when I was doing my healing work, a lot of essential oils were testing bad for me. So they were just way too strong, and I was getting really bad migraines from those. So even though they are natural, we can find that essential oils can be a toxin for some people. Things like candles and room fresheners and toilet sprays, they can come up as an inhalant for people. The big one we find is laundry detergent, because we can wash our clothes and then it stays on our clothes as residue. And if you're wearing your, really smelly Tide, or we call it Omo in Australia, if you're wearing that really strong smelling laundry detergent all day, that can be knocking off your treatments, or it can be causing you, or it can be testing as a toxin to you. So laundry detergents is one that we often find, but things like, things that we don't think about often, candles that even don't have a smell can be an inhalant because of the smoke. Contactants are something that we touch on our skin. So anything like creams and lotions and body washes, anything like deodorant and makeup, and also our laundry detergent can come up as a contactant as well, because there's residue in our clothes. So obviously if you can smell it on your clothes, there's going to be a residue. So some people will get eczema or some kind of contact dermatitis, and it can quite often be caused by their laundry detergent, because it's sitting on their skin all day and it's touching their skin. And even though we might not think of that as a contactant, their clothes can be. So some things that are unusual to come up as a contactant are things like bandages and band-aids. I mean, some people are just reactive to the plastic in band-aids. Temporary tattoos, pen ink, and especially with kids who are using pens and learning how to write and draw, they can be getting the pen ink and the textures or markers on their skin, and that can come up. If you're a teacher, whiteboard markers, when they get on your skin, they can also pose as an inhalant as well, because when you're using whiteboard markers on the board, they can be smelling. And I know that firsthand because I am a teacher, and when I've used whiteboard markers, I have to go with the non-smelling ones because they're quite toxic. So other things like contactants are pet hair. So if you're touching and patting your pet or washing your pet, sometimes that can act as a contactant too. Injectants are things that pierce your skin. So we're probably all thinking about maybe vaccinations, mosquito bites, insect bites, snake bites, cuts and grazes, things like that. But anything that cuts the skin can act as a injectant, and you can get a cut and then something goes into that site. So if you've just cut your skin and it's open, then anything that goes in on that can then test as an injectant. So it doesn't necessarily mean it was the thing that made your skin pierced, it's afterwards because you've got open skin there. So then we go on to pathogens, and we test things like viruses and hidden viruses, hidden bacteria. We test for mold, protozoa, mycoplasma, biofilms. I've gone through all this in a different live, so you can go back and test that. So we also test for non-physical and physical symptoms and things that affect people physically and non-physically, so emotions. So I wanted to go through some wonderful and weird ways that we can test using healing solutions. So like if you don't have any chronic illness or acute illness and you just want something tested, we can test for you. And when I started learning this, I wanted to learn how to test my foods, and I wanted to learn how to test my supplements. So they were the things that I wanted to test the most. And then I found myself testing all sorts of weird things. And when I wasn't a practitioner, I would always get the practitioners to help me, because you've got to learn how to be objective. So if you're testing something, it's quite often better to get someone else who can be objective to test you. And that's why one of the reasons that I became a practitioner was because I was actually better at being objective for other people and testing other people, and then I was learning how to be more objective with myself. So to be honest, when my kids are sick, I do find that quite hard to test them, but I'm getting better with that because you've just got to figure out what's going on for them. And if you're just saying, I just want to know the truth, what is going on, it makes it a lot easier. But so being objective is the number one thing that you need to be able to test. And I test random things, like I go down the end of my street and then I've got two ways to go downtown, so I can go left or I can go right. Sometimes going left is really busy and you've got to get out onto the highway. Sometimes going right is longer. So I will actually test, should I go left or should I go right at the roundabout? And I can either test, okay, I'm going to go right this time, and then it takes me into town a lot quicker. If I go left, there's not as much traffic. So I'll just test that each day mainly. So some things that we can test are, you've been offered a job and you want to know whether you should take it or not. So is it in your best and highest good to take this job? So we can test that. You know, or there's a list of 4 jobs and you're not sure which one to go for. So should you go for all 4? Should you go for 3 of those, 2 of those, 1 of those, or should you go for none of those? These are all 4 jobs, and you've asked the employer, you know, about the job, but you're not really sure which one's going to suit you. We can test that as well. If you're enrolling your kids in school, you know, and you've got a pick of 3 different schools, you can actually test that as well. When my daughter was being enrolled, she's in kindergarten at the moment, so I think Americans call it kindergarten too, but that's the very first year of school. When she was starting, we were enrolling her in school, and we just wanted to know there's 2 options only for us here. So we had a private school and a public school, which we could enroll her in, and the public school actually tested really good for her, and it's been a brilliant school. So I got that tested as well. So you can test, you know, which doctor, which therapist, which dentist, which midwife you should use. You want a mentor. Should you use this mentor to work with? Is this mentor going to take you to, you know, great places and take you higher into the job that you want to do? Should you do this course? You know, you wanted to figure out whether you're going to go back to university or you're going to study further, and you want to figure out, should you do this course? It might just be an online course, and you're trying to figure out, well, is it going to be worth my time? And I've got to pay some money. Should I do this? Another one is, should I invest in this company? So sometimes people want to know about investing their money, and we can talk about that a little bit later on, but we can test whether you should invest in this company, whether they are actually true to their word and they are actually a proper investment company and they're going to do well with your money. Another one that my mum tests in particular was she was wearing a particular type of colour each day. So what colour should I wear each day? What resonates with this day, and what is on the vibration of this day? So there is colours for every day, and when my mum was in admin, she would wear the colours of each day. So every colour matched a different day. So she was wearing that. So you can test, you know, should I wear red today? Should I wear green? Should I wear pink? Should I wear blue? You know, any kind of colour for that day. One thing that I love testing when my kids were babies was, is my baby hungry? Are they tired? Do they need a nappy change? Do they have a belly ache? Are they too hot? Are they too cold? You know, do they just want a cuddle? You know, they don't want anything else but just a cuddle. So you can actually test for a baby who can't talk to you, and you can test exactly what they want for you, you know, from you, and, you know, do they actually have a really upset belly? And then you can go into it further and figure out, well, what is causing that belly ache? You might be going to go for a new car and figure out, you want to find out what it is, what type of car that you should buy. Should you buy this car? Should you go to this car lot and buy it from this fella or this person? And, you know, should I buy this car at second hand? I don't know anything about the owner. Should I be buying it? Is it going to be a lemon or is it going to be fine? So there's all different things that you can test. So if you have any comments, or you've done some sessions with Healing Solutions before and you've had some things tested, put it in the comments below, because other people would be really interested to hear what you've had tested. So what we're testing is on the person's best and highest good at the time. We're not future readers, so things can change. So even though, you know, for example, my daughter's school tests really good for her at the moment, that might change, and it might test better for her to go to a different school and we can re-enroll her somewhere else. But for now, it tests great for her, and we're testing in this moment. So we can test somewhat into the future a little bit, but we don't go too far into the future, because of course everything can change, and then, you know, anything can come up and change that. So, you know, you might test great for being in that job, but 3 or 4 months later, something else pops up and that job is better for you to change. So you might think, oh, you want to be in a job long term, but actually it's in your best and highest good for you to change into the next job. And, you know, you might be doing that more often than you thought, but you just go with what tests well for you and what tests in your best and highest good. So if you test for yourself, it's really important to remove the power of suggestion. So the classic example is, if you are going to eat the chocolate cake, don't bother testing. It's a waste of your time. So if you truly want to know whether the chocolate cake is good for you or not, then just be objective and say, all I want to know is if it's good for me or not. So is it in my best and highest good to have this chocolate cake? And then if you get a no, well, you get a no and you go, okay, well, I'm not to eat that chocolate cake. But if you are going to eat it regardless, then disregard to even testing it, because you're putting in the suggestion into your test, and you're probably going to get a yes, you should eat it anyway. But when it comes to testing, it's really important to be objective. And the more you do it, the more objective you can become. And it's really, Kalyani does a class on how to test, and it's really quite good for beginners to learn how to be objective. But you've sort of got to erase the power of suggestion when you're testing and just be like, okay, all I want to know is the truth and what is in my best and highest good for here. I remember asking Carolee when I wasn't a practitioner about my wedding day, and I said to her, is it going to rain on my wedding day? And she said, well, I don't know that. I'm not a fortune teller, and I don't know anything about the weather in Australia. So she said, I would suggest that you have a backup plan. And I said, well, I don't really have a backup plan. I don't really want it to rain. And she said, well, make sure you pray and make sure that you put it out there that you're going to have a very nice day and it's not going to rain. So she said, but I do suggest you have a backup plan, because we aren't future tellers and we're not sure what's going to happen. So we did have a backup plan, and I put it out there that the day would be nice and cloudy but not raining, and it was very cloudy. It rained before our wedding, it didn't rain during, and it rained after. So we had the perfect weather for photos, and it made for a really nice day. So if there's any emotion involved, it can be quite hard to test yourself. So that's why it's really good to go with one of us practitioners. And if you're just testing something really simple like that, you can be on and off the phone within a couple of minutes. It doesn't take us long at all to test that for you. So I love the fact that Healing Solutions, we can test whatever. And in my post about this live, I said the sky's the limit. And then I said, actually, no, it's actually more like space, because we could even test astronauts in space, and because energy knows no bounds. So if you are a self-tester and you're having some troubles with being a little bit objective, let us know, because I can figure out what it is that's blocking you and what's blocking you to being objective, and I can just test for you, because when you're starting out, sometimes that can be quite hard. So I hope this gives you some information about just the really simple things that we can do. Sometimes people think Healing Solutions is all about complex issues, but it's not. Sometimes the practitioners are on and off the phone within a couple of minutes just testing something really easy. So if you've got some comments, and like I said, if you've got anything that you've had tested with Healing Solutions that's just really simple and you want to put a comment below, do so. And then if you want to reach me for a session, my email is sarah@besthealingsolutions.com, and on our website there's a request a session form that you can fill in, and our website is www.besthealingsolutions.com, and I look forward to seeing you in the next live. Thanks, and have a great day.